Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who took a road that most people would have used as an excuse to stop, and instead used it as fuel to keep going. From losing his mom at 15 to becoming a Navy rescue swimmer to raising a daughter on his own in Guam, to now building a $50 million mortgage business from the ground up. He has earned every bit of it the hard way. Travis Smart, welcome to the Lowdown.
Hey, thank you so much
Travis,
for having me. Really appreciate the chance to be on here.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I really appreciate the opportunity to have you on the show and get your story out there, because I think it's a great one for others to hear. And I'll just start with this. So, as we were speaking before, you mentioned that you went from having just a few $1,000s to your name, working a factory job, and going to an interview where everyone just sort of looked miserable, to now running, a successful $50 million plus kind of book of business. What was the moment along that path that made you think, as an originator, like, hey, maybe I can actually do this and be successful at this thing?
There's a few moments that come to mind. One of the bigger moments was towards the beginning of my career. Obviously the three rules to creating a relationship is know you, like you, trust you, right? Trust is the hardest thing to gain, the easiest thing to lose. And I am actually in an area that I'm not originally from. I didn't grow up. I don't have the people I went to high school with, people who know me. So I started with nobody knows me. I have to start trying to establish who I am or what people think of me or my reputation. And when I first went out on my own, one of the hard things about being in a smaller town like where I live today, which is Prescott, Arizona, is a lot of people know somebody. So what I did was in the beginning of my career, I would literally go to the outskirts of any town in my area that I felt like no one was going towards. Nobody was spending time on because they are off the beaten path. I was doing anything I could to get some business going. And first year was really, really difficult. I mean, the first year was really difficult. Second year started similar, but there was an opportunity that I had where it was a front desk gal who at the biggest brokerage here in town. She had gotten into contract. The loan officer had originally approved them. Then they denied them. They went to a second lender for their opinion. Said they can't do it. I was the final step, last resort, and I looked through everything. I came up with the solution to get them closed on their home. And with that opportunity, because she worked the front desk of the biggest brokerage, it was amazing because she shouted my praises to every agent that was there. And it just added a lot more credibility because everybody can start a conversation and say, hey, I'm the best at what I do, which if you're in a line of work, I think you should think that about yourself 100%. Hey, I'm the best. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I mean, I think of it as kind of like when you're first dating somebody, it's easy to show the best sides of you in the beginning, but it's hard to keep the worst sides of you hidden. So it definitely helped a lot with my credibility. It helped me get my foot in the door. And success doesn't come easy to anybody, period. I mean, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. And that definitely relates to the mortgage industry, real estate, or being a business owner in general, all three.
Yeah. And that's like the coolest part about people is that you don't know if who you're going to meet along the way, who they know, what kind of influence they might have for you. So I think it just like reinforces the idea of treat people with respect, do a good job, always bring your best to every situation, and great things can happen. And I just love that breakthrough story and sort of just being, in the right place, right time, doing a good job and following through. And then it just sort of paying off in a big way. Now, as you were starting as a loan officer, and we'll get into your background a little bit more in a minute, but at the same time, you were working like a night job, or not a night, you're going through the fire academy. Your wife had a high risk pregnancy. Like there was a lot going on. Most people would have cracked under something like that. Like what was going through your head during that season, and how did it unlock something in you professionally?
This is a great question. At that point, my 7-year old daughter had been, was born. She was here, and the reality was I was doing everything I could to get business going as a loan officer. But my bills don't care how much effort I'm putting into something. And with my background of being a rescue swimmer, I was like, well, I love helping people. I love serving the community, and I have an obligation to my family, which is to provide. And I needed to know that had something else. If I'm going to continue failing at this, I need to do something else. So during the day, Monday through Friday, obviously, I was working as a loan officer, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evening was the fire academy, and Saturday all day I was in the fire academy. And when I went into the fire academy, I gained a little bit more confidence, not even in my business, but just in myself. I felt confident that if I was to pursue a career in fire, I would get opportunities. But I was so exhausted because the previous year I had spent trying to essentially be something I wasn't, or give people the perception that I was something that I'm not. I tried to replicate what I saw successful loan officers doing. I tried to, every day I was wearing a tie, a blazer, all these different things that, at my core, I'm Jenny from the block. I mean, I'm Jenny from the block. And so it's so exhausting trying to be something you're not. And not only that, I was failing doing it. So I really thought about it. I was like, if I can fail being something I'm not, I might as well fail for who I am, because the reality is if I would have gained success for being something I wasn't, would that success truly be mine? And to me, the answer to that question is no. It wouldn't have been mine. Once I had that confidence where I was, when I'd meet with somebody or talk to somebody, I was just being true to who I am, and I started getting more business. People started referring me because people can feel when someone's being fake with them. I mean, it's just the reality. People can feel it. I mean, I can have this conversation, and back then I was like 26, 27 years old as well, so I was insecure about how old I was. So I was, all the different things you can imagine. And so for me, it was okay. So you're going to the meeting with this guy who's like obviously wearing this suit, who looks really professional, but every so often he accidentally drops an F bomb. So you're like, hey, this doesn't necessarily completely align here, too, But yeah, it would definitely help me gain a lot of confidence. And yeah, I would rather, again, if someone gave me the choice, hey, would you rather succeed for something you're not or fail for who you are? I'd rather fail for who I am and then go back to the
Yeah.
drawing.
Well, I love the way you say that. And, there is a big difference between being likable and trying to be liked. And I think if we go the let's try to make people like me route, it's, one, there's always that imposter syndrome. There's that feeling of, trying to remember who you're trying to be and cover up, for yourself and all those things. But like I'm looking at my screen, and for those of you who aren't watching and maybe just listening to this podcast, Travis, black t-shirt, I see tattoos coming out of his arms. Like he's not in that suit anymore, man. And I love it. So, like, what would you say to someone, or how would you coach someone who's kind of stuck in that limiting belief, or in that mode of like, I got to try to be someone I'm not to impress somebody?
What I would say is, here's the reality, and this is something that I hope to share with somebody who needs to hear it, is I didn't come from good. I mean, you heard a little bit about it. I mean, my mom passed when I was 15, but she also was an addict. She also was addicted to prescription narcotics. My father and I didn't get along very well, so I got kicked out when I was 16 years old. I had to work a graveyard shift at a restaurant, and I graduated high school a year early to to join the Navy and become a rescue swimmer. And I made it through a pipeline that had a very, very high attrition rate. Only 6 people out of 35 people in my class graduated, and I was the youngest. I mean, I turned 18 when I was in rescue swimmer school. And hey, all the different things is, hey, if you looked at me on paper, right? You look at all these different things. Guy was, I became a dad at 20. I was a single dad by 21. Would I personally think that I had the capability of being successful? The reality to that question is no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have thought that. And that's who I hope hears this broadcast. Somebody who thinks, hey, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not like those other really successful loan officers. I'm not, hey, I didn't come from good things. I don't have a college education. I'm not the most enthusiastic person in the world. Rah, rah. That's not who I am. But I love this industry so much because there is no direct right or wrong way to gain traction, to gain success. Every single person's different. And I think that is your value. Who you are as an individual is your value as a loan officer. Because the reality is, in any line of work, someone else can probably do the same job, but can they do it with the same heart? Do they have the same intentions by their clients? And is it somebody that you want to win with?
Yeah. Man, I absolutely love your story of because it's against all odds kind of story, right? And I mean, you mentioned going through a tight pipeline just to get through rescue swimmer school. I would say, with the circumstances that you grew up with, I mean, you defied a lot of odds just to come out on the good side of that. And so, that, I mean, big kudos to you for that. I mean, do you ever think about just that younger version of yourself and what you would say to them today is like, stick with it, better is ahead, or like what are those conversations like in your mind? Because I think we all kind of have those discussions with ourselves if we could.
Absolutely. Well, and I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I think that we all go through our different things in life. And especially when we're younger, we feel like, at least for myself, I mean, I felt like the world was against me. I felt like I got the short end of a stick. I felt like all these different things that were it was very, very powerless to feel that way. And today, what I get to do with that is, hey, how many I went through a custody battle and a divorce when I was 20 years old, right? How many of my friends today are going through similar situations, and I get to give them the guidance that I wish I would have had? And honestly, to me, it's like you can go through something bad in life, and if you only look back at it as a negative, it will forever be bad. But if you use that circumstance to help someone else, you're giving purpose to it. You're giving, it makes it worth it. I mean, hey, I would go through, and if someone said, hey, you have a wand, can you change anything you went through? Mine is, hey, it'd be nice to have my mother here, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't change any bit of it because every bit of it got me to where I am today. And when it comes to if you're going through a hard time, talk to people, talk about it. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't run from it. And don't think the world is against you because then that is forever going to be a bad thing. I mean, hey, I went through the loss of my mother who had addiction issues. Hey, I have a pretty addictive personality. I feel like, I like to use that towards being like I like working, right? So it becomes like this, almost like an addiction where, hey, her being an addict kept me from being an addict because I've avoided these things that can cause dependency. When it came to my father kicking me out at a younger age, hey, I learned how to be independent and self-reliant and to take care of myself. When it came to going through the rescue swimmer pipeline, the only decision that I made that was different than 29 of those people was I decided that if I wasn't good enough, they would tell me I'm not making that decision myself. I'm not going to quit.
Hmm.
When it comes to getting married and getting divorced at a young age, it was okay. Hey, I made a rush decision. I made a long-term decision on a short-term situation, but my daughter didn't decide to be here, and I owe her everything I have. She didn't choose to be here. I have responsibilities, and I owe her. And I think it's just you go through these different things, but I would rather fail knowing I did everything I possibly could than not try. I don't want to have regrets. And if you're in this industry and you're struggling right now, do everything you can. Don't regret the things you could have done that you didn't do.
Right. Leave it on the field, right? Like, just if you're gonna fail trying your butt off. Like, I love that. Now, kind of on the subject of the rescue swimmer, experience that you had. You mentioned that within that world, you'd get pre-briefed on the mission. You knew exactly what every emergency procedure was, and sort of that way of going about things has, influence the way you run your mortgage business where through your pre-approval you say, hey, my signature is as good as cash. Like, walk us through that process and what you mean by that and how it was influenced by your experience in the rescue swimmer world of things.
Absolutely. So prior to going to boot camp and rescue swimmer school, I mean, there was almost a year in between when I first enlisted to actually even going to boot camp. And so for me, it was this obsession. It was all I thought about was making this difference for somebody else. I mean, it became an obsession. And when I went through the schooling, I knew that I was in a class of 35 people who had that same obsession. It was like, you can't make it through that school on accident. And so everything was life and death. My goal was to be able to be in a position to make that difference for somebody. Well, as you go through the pipeline and you start flying and you start doing missions, or you start doing ready duty search and rescue where you're on call in case, somebody needs you, you pre-brief everything. Every single mission, every possibility has been pre-briefed. You already know exactly what you're going out there to do. And then you execute the mission. And after every mission, what do you do after the mission? You debrief it. You go through it, you break it down, you talk about what went well, what didn't go well. We even had a pocket checklist on every single flight for every possible emergency that could happen. You knew exactly how to handle it. Well, when it came to when I was doing rescue or doing a rescue, it was okay, here's exactly how I handle this. This is the exact step by step I'm going to go through in this process. Well, what is one of the biggest things that we hear about when it comes to lenders? The lender dropped the ball. They declined the loan last minute. They didn't do their job up front. They didn't do their due diligence up front. So, what makes my pre approval different is we literally will go through, if there is any questionable piece to somebody's qualification, we are going to go through every part of that up front. I literally am okay with somebody saying, hey, well, we want to submit an offer right now. If I'm not 100% sure of it, I am perfectly fine with somebody going down the street, because I'd rather they learn that there was a big problem than have it be on my conscience, because that would be on my conscience. I don't want somebody to be out a penny for inspections, their hopes, their dreams, their ideas of these homes. Like, I don't want that on my conscience. So we have already pre-looked at everything. I've already taken into account pretty much anything that could possibly go wrong, barring somebody magically quitting their job, or we've prepared them. Hey, don't get a car loan. Have you gotten a car loan in the last few months? We've already covered everything up front. Don't lose your job. Don't quit your job. Don't take another opportunity right now. We have literally prepared for it. So when anybody sees my name in my area who has worked with me ever before, they know, hey, we've already done all of our due diligence. My favorite call that I get from somebody who hasn't worked with me, or if I call them just to introduce myself in hopes to help a offer get accepted, I will literally say, hey, I have already looked at everything, gone through every piece of it. I am 100% confident in this client's ability, this borrower's ability to qualify. I have absolutely no question. Obviously, hey, appraisals can come in low, things can happen, inspections can go not amazing, but outside of that, I've already done everything up front. So
Yeah.
literally just the preparation and the learning. Hey, have I had unforeseen things happen towards the beginning of my career on a file? I mean, absolutely. Did we figure out a solution? Because I will never allow somebody to, the same mentality. Hey, if I messed up on a rescue, it was life and death. Hey, I'm going to figure out the solution for these problems. And then it was, okay, debrief. How could I have
Mhm.
avoided having gone through that tough situation? What could I have done up front to have avoided it, or to have made it where we didn't have all this stress?
Yeah. Well, and going through all of that, it's not something you do on your own. You've got other members of the team as well. And something that's really impressed me about you is that your, members of your team have been with you for a while. I mean, in mortgage years, it's kind of like dog years, right? Like 1 year, 7 years. So you've got a processor who's been with you for over 7 years now, a pre-approval manager for over 5. You were in her wedding, in an industry that's like revolving doors. Like, how do you build a team that sticks together like that?
Well, in the beginning of my career, I was on a team, or I worked under a loan officer whose team was that revolving door. And I was blessed also in the service because there was a leader that I had who went to bat for me. I mean, when I was a single dad, I couldn't do some of the different things that were possibly expected of me because I had my daughter full time. There was times where I couldn't fly night flights. And so they brought me into what the Navy calls a human factors board. It was with my entire chain of command. And they talk about what you have going on in your life, those different things. And it was literally my leading chief petty officer, my department head, who was a lieutenant commander, and my commanding officer of the entire squadron, who was a commander. And I'll never forget my chief. He's an E7, so not the highest ranking enlisted, but you know, pretty high ranking on the enlisted side. But all of the officers are way over him. And he said, "With all due respect, sir, petty." And I was a petty officer. He said, "Petty Officer Smart has done everything that anybody could ever ask of him. He's doing everything he can right by his kid, and I think it's absolutely mind blowing that we're in this effing meeting right now." And I'll never forget that because the military is, hey, it's still a business. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it is. Hey, how do you make rank? It's because you have made the higher ups happy. You have, I don't want to say kiss their butt, but you have given them this complete side of yourself that they feel good about putting you in for promotions and things like that. Well, fast forward, that same gentleman who had my back to the highest ranking people in my squadron, he retired as the command master chief, which is the highest enlisted rank he could have obtained at the Navy's Rescue Swimmer School. And what that showed me was you can do right by your people, do right by who you are, and keep your integrity and still be successful. So when I first started my team, it was okay. I have somebody else who is betting on me, somebody else who's relying on me, not just them, but have family, they have other responsibilities, and okay, hey, am I going to be the one size fits all person? No, I'm not. But I've always disliked the when people say, "Oh, this is a work family," when really it's not. It's not anything like that. So when it comes to anybody who's on my team, I mean, I genuinely care. I do care. This isn't a facade. This isn't lip service. This is, hey, I genuinely care about you. And over the years, I have grown to be great friends with my pre-approval manager down to when her buying her first home was, as silly as it sounds, like one of the biggest highlights of my career. And it's not because I did that, she did that 100%, but it was being a small part of her joining this team helped her and her family have this, now become homeowners. And when she asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding, it just was solidifying to know that, hey, she knows that I do genuinely care about her. It was like a great privilege. I never would have thought I would be a bridesmaid, but it was a huge honor for me. And they're amazing. I have an amazing team. I'm very blessed by them. I hope, and as silly as it sounds, like my hope is that, hey, whenever the time comes down the road, we all just ride off into the sunset, and it's time, to hang it up. But I think it's just important as a leader to think about, hey, does that mean, hey, if there's different things that come about, are we going to discuss it? Absolutely. But I'm blessed because the people I have on my team are similar to me in the sense of, like, when you care about the people that you're surrounded by, if you care about whose team you're on, if you care about that person, you're going to naturally be hard on yourself, right? Does that make sense? Like, you're going to hold yourself very accountable. I mean, I have never once yelled at a single person who's worked with me or worked for me. I have never done that. And I think that just changes a complete, the mentality of everybody, the mindset, hey, everybody here is doing the best they can. So I would say that that's been one of my biggest things that's helped me.
Has success come to a place for you now where it's less about like the numbers and the awards and the accolades and more about just taking care of the people that you care about? I mean, is that what I'm hearing? Is it, that would be more important to you than hitting 100 million in volume or something along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important to have goals. It's always important to be working towards different things. But the one thing that I have learned through my career in this industry, I used to think, hey, if I got to this point, I'm going to magically feel good. Oh, okay, I'm going to be somebody. People are going to think I'm somebody. The reality is no one, no, I don't think that the person at the grocery store gives a rat's ass that I've closed X
Right.
amount in mortgage volume. I mean, it doesn't matter. And I think that it was just, I hit those different points where I was like, okay, well, if I get to this point, then I'm going to feel good. Well, I hit that point. Oh, okay, then it was a moving goalpost, and the goalpost kept on moving. It's all about, hey, I want us all to win together. I don't want to sacrifice the quality of somebody's experience with us for more business, because this is such an important thing that people are entrusting you with in their lives. And I've always said the day that I am desensitized to the importance of what this means for our clients that are trusting us, I need to go find something else to do. So I would say I want to do well because I believe so much in how great my team is that I don't want somebody to have a horrible experience somewhere else. So I almost feel like I owe it to them to continue marketing, continue working really hard, continue trying to grow. But I think with that comes some amazing benefits. Hey, at the big case in point is at the beginning of your career, what is your answer to anybody who's going to give you any opportunity whatsoever? The answer to that question is yes, please, and thank you. No matter what it is, it's always yes, please, and
Mhm.
thank you. And throughout my career, I've been blessed to work with people who I really align with, clients, referral partners, real estate agents. And that comes with it's almost like a two-sided sword to a degree, because with that, you start realizing which relationships are more transactional based, which is to me, there's a difference between a relationship and a partnership. They're two very different
Mhm.
things.
Definitely.
But one of my downsides is I wear my heart on my sleeve, man. I can't help but care deeply. And there's been plenty of times where that wasn't reciprocated.
Mhm.
I've been blessed because with growing your business, you don't have to work with everybody. You don't have to continue on in a partnership or a business relationship that doesn't make you feel good, because people talk about return on ROI or return on investment or return on energy, but I always consider, hey, was that check worth the soul tax that I paid? And that is something that, especially over the last year, has been a lot more prevalent in my life. I mean, I have definitely broken or gotten away from different relationships that no longer served my soul.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just a sign of maturing as a professional. But I wouldn't say that wearing your heart on your sleeve is ever a downside, man. Like, because when someone reveals themselves to you as who they really are, then and like that's incredibly valuable. And whether or not you want to continue that relationship is up to you at that point. But I mean, that's a common theme that comes up on this show a lot, is that moment where a loan officer realizes, I don't need you anymore and I can, build somewhere else. It's incredibly empowering. And it does seem to be a very, like a tipping point moment for originators where they have leveled up at some point. That first agent they fire is a big deal. But no, I love that you're, open and authentic and operating in your own skin and not trying to convince someone that you're, any different than who you actually are. But there's an element of that you shared that I thought was really vulnerable, where, you just said you're just inherently insecure, but that most successful people tend to be that way. And I agree with you. I think there's, insecurity kind of pushes some of us to rise up and try to prove ourselves over and over again. But feeling that way can be a little heavy. Like, how do you allow insecurity to keep working for you rather than against you, especially when things are, difficult and you're just kind of like going through a tough week or having a rough day?
I think the biggest thing you have the head and the heart, right? Your head can, play tricks on, or your heart can play tricks on you. And just really, hey, to this day, it doesn't matter how many years I've been doing this. I mean, you have a bad week, you don't have, you maybe have a couple deals fall out, or you have a couple, you don't get as many leads. You start questioning yourself. You start going, hey, maybe the universe is going to realize that I wasn't meant to have success, but I've outworked what the universe's intentions were for me.
It's fair.
And I think one of the biggest ways to use it for good is not necessarily to prove anything to anybody else, but just to prove things to yourself. I never look at anybody else's numbers. I literally have realized how much that actually detrimentally has impacted my mental health and my feelings about self. That the only person I compare myself to is where I was a year ago. I'm in the only person I'm competing with is myself. One of the biggest things with the insecurity side being a benefit, I would say, is just you do feel it. In the beginning, I mean, even down to me making it through rescue swimmer school. I mean, I was just like, okay, I'm going to prove to my father that I don't need him, and even my mother who was gone. Okay, I need to prove something to them. I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I am somebody who is of value. I need to, try to do these different things. And it's important to have some sort of motivation wherever that comes from. I mean, you have to have it. I mean, if I had $100 million in the bank, would I feel motivated to come to work every day? I mean, honestly, I maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But I've lived my life broke too. I've been broke. I've struggled. I've paid lawyers money that I didn't have. I'm not inept or wake up thinking, well, if I stop doing the right things, I'm going to keep being successful. No, it's not going to be the case. This is, every day, every single day, I'm earning what I have. And I think that's a very valuable thing. And it's not saying, hey, if you are a very confident person that you can't have that. It's just different. You're going to have to find it somewhere else. I feel like it's a gift being a little bit insecure. Or where mine came from was being the chubby kid on the swim team. Didn't even realize I was a chubby kid on the swim team until somebody called me somebody else's name by mistake who I thought was chubby. And I was like, oh my gosh, I look like that. But no, it's a great question, man.
Travis, I really appreciate you, joining the podcast. We're getting to a place where we should probably wrap it up, but I've asked a lot of questions, and I want to give you an opportunity to just kind of speak freely and share whatever you think might be important for someone who's listening to hear, and just speak your mind. So if you got anything on your mind, something you haven't had a chance to say yet, now's your chance.
For anybody who's struggling out there right now, or in any sort of regard, and you think that maybe success or money is going to change how you feel about yourself, it's not. The only thing it's going to change is how easy or hard it is for you to pay your bills. The biggest thing is just, if you're going to do something, do it in a way that aligns with your inner values. And one of the things I have found that has really helped me, because I do have four daughters now. I have, my wife and I have three together, and then my oldest daughter. I always think about, if my daughter was in this room watching me do whatever it is I'm doing, would I feel good about it? Which would that be something I'm proud of? Would that be something I want her to see? And it's just like, even just putting myself in that situation, hey, I want to be somebody that my children are proud of, but also somebody who, if my daughters were with somebody like me, I would be happy that they were with that person. So that didn't come from money. That has nothing to do with success or closing. It's just take care of yourself, take care of the people around you. Because when I was my most successful in my career, I was probably the worst I've been as a husband and father. And if I was to lose my family, which I was on the brink of losing my family at that point in time, everything I did was for nothing. Keep your priorities straight and learn from those who've gone before you. Be wise, not smart. Biggest difference. Learn from the mistakes of others. Don't be like me, even though my last name's Smart. Don't be
Right.
like me. But I really
Well, I
appreciate
love it,
you.
man. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice, and I love that you share it, and it's clear that you speak from the heart on those things, and so I wish you nothing but success in the future, and hope to continue following your story along. And just thanks for being on the lowdown, Travis. It was great to hear you share everything about yourself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me and giving me this opportunity as well.